The League of Order is considered by many to be the best starting faction for new players in Call of Dragons, but what makes them great for starting out? Let's find out together. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Phoenix, and today we are going to be taking a deep dive on the League of Order. This is by far the faction that I recommend for all new players starting out in Call of Dragons, and it is currently the faction that I am using in Call of Dragons. Now, the best part of League of Order is their 10% gather speed. It is imperative that when you are starting out in the game that you are collecting resources as fast as you can. There are a lot of buildings, there are a lot of technology, there are a lot of troops to train, and there are a lot of healing that you're going to need to do as you progress through this game. So gathering resources is imperative. Now, I will tell you, I am not going to be staying with the League of Order. I have turned City Hall 25. I have started unlocking my Tier 5 troops, and I am about to switch, and I will tell you why later in this week. But before we get any further, let's take a look at what the League of Order offers you when you first start the game. So I've already talked about the 10% overall gather speed. That is huge for new players. It is a great way to jumpstart your game. You're not going to be going into epic battles. You're not going to be, building super fast unless you're planning on spending. Getting those resources is going to be vital for your success. Okay, it is one of the most important pieces of this. The other thing that the League of Order gives you is plus 3% Legion magic defense. This is really great because when you first start out, you are primarily going to be using mages. Most people tend to lean towards the mages. They're easier to get. You're going to get them as rewards. So a lot of players start in the mages. Getting that extra 3% defense, while it is kind of small, hey, it's going to help you in the beginning of the game when you're fighting, Darklings, when you're trying to level up your heroes. That's going to be great. The other great thing about League of Order is Waldir. He is a magic hero that is probably the strongest of the three factions, and if you pick them in the beginning, you are going to get more of Waldir tokens, and having him is going to really help you, and he is a PvP focused hero as well, and that's going to help you in the long game. So you're getting something to start with your 10% gather speed, and you're getting a hero that you can use as a main hero, whether you're spending a little, spending a lot, not spending at all. He will be a great addition to your team. So let's dive into each of the troops and see what else League of Order has to offer you. The first troop I want to take a look at is the Workhorses. This is the gathering unit for the League of Order, and it is, in my opinion, the best gathering unit out of all three factions. And the reason is this second buff right here. It gives it an extra 10% of load capacity, and what that's going to allow you to do is train less of them, right? We don't need to have as many. They can go get our resources. We can train enough to make sure that we can cover all of our nodes and let them bring it in without having to use any of our damage dealing troops. And that can be important because if we need to still gather, but we need to be in war, we can send some of our workhorses out. They can go gather, they can go bring them back, and we don't need to risk using any of our troops. If there's any cavalry out on the battlefield and they want to start picking off, some of the nodes, we're going to lose our workhorses, but we're not going to put in the hospital all of our troops that we're going to need for that next battle. So this is the very first troop that makes League of Order, in my opinion, the best starting faction. The next troop I want to talk about in the League of Order is the Swordsman. So this is the infantry unit that the League of Order has, and it is a very strong and sturdy unit to use. So looking at the skills, the first skill is called Rampage. It allows our Swordsmen to speed up when they are getting close to the target, and they will collide with them, and they will reduce 75% of the Legion's march speed for 8 seconds. This is great for giving us the ability to almost stun our enemies as we're approaching, making a big front line and allowing our mages, our marksmen, to pick them apart as we push forward. It is great to have a sturdy infantry unit up front. It helps with catching cavalry and burning them down, but it also creates a sturdy front for you to be able to push through. Now, yes, you have to be careful. Mages can really burn some infantry, but if you have the right infantry with you, it can take a long time, okay? The Rampage can interrupt the cavalry skill Unyielding Rush. That is another great ability. So we will get to the cavalries, but the Unwielding Rush allows them to bully their way in and take out all ranged units. So we want to make sure that we get those infantry in front and stop that. That can be the difference between winning a battle and losing a battle. The second skill that we have here is Preparedness. So this increases our engineering by 15% when we're building barricades and alliance buildings. Swordsmen are great at building, okay? This is the unit that you're going to use when you're building those towers, when you're building the roads, when you're building barricades. They are great for pushing through. This is going to be great when we're moving into new zones, right? Because we want to push in, we want to build as fast as possible so that we can keep moving and connecting the map. The next skill we have is Perseverance. So each time the Legion loses 3% of its units, their defense increases by 1.5, all the way up to 50%. These can stand out there on the battlefield for a long time. So even when they are dying, they are getting more defense. They're going to withstand a lot more, and they can be out there taking that pressure. They're not there to do a ton of damage. They're not there to smack everybody around. They are there to delay those cavalry units, to delay those range units from getting to your DPSers, okay? They're vital, and this is a great skill to have. Losing 3% health, but you're gaining something in return. You're gaining that 1.5 all the way up to 50%. And then the last skill is a Swordsman counterattack. So this is awesome that they can counterattack ranged units. Yes, they only deal half the counterattack damage, but that's great. If you spec a infantry unit like Nika into a counterattack build, and you're just standing there with Husk, which has a ton of extra troops, which gives you a ton of extra HP. It's going to allow you to gain that defense, but you're also going to be spitting back that counterattack back at them for long periods of time. So it's great to use the Swordsman counterattack when you're up in the front. The next unit I want to talk about is the Knights, and these are my favorite unit in the game. They are easily the most fun to play with. You can zip around the battlefield, you can do a lot of damage. So let's figure out what they got going on with their skills. So the first thing is their cavalry, right? So melee cavalry units have the highest march speed, so they do move very fast. And if you're pairing them with, let's say, Emery's, you can get into a mobility tree that allows you to really, really increase your march speed, and you can zip in, do damage, get out really, really fast, and they allow you to survive a long time, which means that you can have a lot of fun on the battlefield with the cavalry unit. The next thing they have is Unyielding Rush. Unyielding Rush, its march speed increase when approaching the target legion. And the best part of it, after colliding with a ranged unit, see, these are great against archers, against our marksmen. They are great against mages, but definitely marksmen. You want to target them first. If you collide with a ranged unit, you're going to gain 1,000 rage right off the bat. And this can be triggered over 12 seconds. So you can march into battle, do a bang-up job, generate the rage, hit your skills, hit your artifact, get out of there, and then come back in. Right? 12 seconds is not a long time. We can continue to do this, and we can continue to take ranged units apart very, very quickly with the cavalry unit. And the last skill they have, which is Knight's Counterattack, they can launch a counterattack when attacked by ranged units. This is awesome. Okay? Yes, again, this is half the counterattack damage, but this is awesome. So even when you're rushing in, you're hitting them. When they're attacking you as you're coming in, when they're attacking you as you're leaving, you're doing counterattack damage. This is great. And if you spec specifically for the march speed when they are attacking you, it's even better, right? Because then you can rush in, you can damage them, hit your rage skills as you're retreating. They're doing damage, but you're counterattacking and you're gaining march speed to get out, so you can rinse and repeat. right? And you're going to do a lot more damage than they are to you. It's a lot of fun having cavalry marches. You don't want to do it alone unless you're just trying to pick off farmers, but having a group of cavalries running around, picking off groups of enemies, it can be a lot of fun and definitely my favorite troop. The next troop I want to look at with the League of Order is the Ballistas. This is our ranged unit, our first ranged unit. They are marksmen. Marksmen are ranged units that deal physical damage from a distance. They have a medium range, okay? So the mages that we're going to talk about in a little bit, they're going to have our longest range. These are the marksmen, they're going to have the medium range, okay? So they do physical damage, not magic damage, but physical damage. Their skill that we see here is Enhanced Torsion. So it increases their normal attack damage dealt by 10% every 4 seconds as long as the Legion is not moved on battle. See, this is great when you can stand still. So some of the behemoth fights, you can stand still, you can do damage, it can build up. That's great, right? In the thick of war, this can be challenging sometimes, right? You may get to war, as soon as it starts, you may need to move to get out of the way of a cavalry coming through, or maybe you're being targeted, you need to back up and go forward. So yes, it's a really awesome skill if you can stand behind good troops and you're not being targeted and you can deal a bunch of damage that just keeps stacking. But as soon as you move, it's a little bit underwhelming of a buff for me. So while I do love the marksman, and it is great in behemoth fights, especially in the very beginning, right, where you can pour on tons of damage right off the bat as long as you're not moving. For the most part, most of the behemoths you're just burning and burning until their first skill happens. But after that, it's a little underwhelming, and for me, I'm more interested in the PvP, right? I'm more interested in the battle, the heat of battle. We're going back and forth, and we're pushing, our enemy back. We're going to be moving. We're going to constantly be moving, so we're going to be losing this buff. So yes, it can be a very powerful buff, but to me it's a little bit underwhelming, but I think that it has its purpose. The next troop for the League of Order is the Vestals. This is a great magic unit that attacks and that I use primarily as my main march. They are a ranged unit, but they do magic attack instead of physical damage. So we can look here, the ranged magic units can deal magic damage from a distance. They actually have a very long range, and they can shoot from the very back, and they can devastate the front line of your enemy's troops. So let's look at their special ability. Their special ability grants a boost to one surrounding friendly legion every 3 seconds while in battle. That's amazing. They do all do that. For the Vestals, we're going to be increasing their HP by 20% for 15 seconds. That's a really, really good blessing to have. I do think the Vestals are extremely powerful for behemoth fights. I think they can be extremely powerful in war. I think giving HP bonuses, especially if you can find a way to get closer to some of the infantry, yes, you have the longer range, but if you can get closer to some of the infantry and give them an extra HP boost while they're standing in the front line tanking for everyone, you can really, really help out a war. Now that can be quite challenging. Obviously, to get up there, you don't want to get hit by AoE, you don't want to waste it all. But that extra HP bonus is pretty amazing, and this effect can be stacked with other HP bonus effects. So you can increase someone's HP if they're holding an artifact that's increasing their HP, and you decide that you want to use your vessels, and they are giving them that HP bonus. It can really keep your tanks just held up in war. It can help in behemoth fights, and it can be a very beneficial. This is the #1 army that I've been using all throughout so far. It's still my main army, even in the battlefield currently in our War in Zone 3. And I think the Vessels is a great unit. Yes, a damage buff is better, but having good HP can make or break you in some of the fights. Elite Hydra, for example, when you're looking at poison, when you're getting hit by the cleave in the front. It can be really beneficial. It can be beneficial in the Necro Giant fight. Having that extra HP and being hit by some of those AoE damages can be very beneficial. So I definitely think the Vessels are a great unit for the League of Order. The last troop I want to look at with the League of Order is the Celestials. This is by far, in my opinion, the best flying unit in the game. Okay, it is a magic, very far attack range unit, which is amazing for flying and attacking from the distance. If you have a great Thea and you have a great Atheist, you can do some major damage. You can definitely use obstacles to your advantage. Let's say water, mountains. You have an advantage to be able to fly anywhere you want and to be able to shield yourself, right? Thea is a great hero to use with Celestials because the shielding capability, the survivability of the Celestials is amazing. They do a great amount of damage. They have a large amount of defense, and they have a pretty good amount of health. They can zip around. They have heroes like Atheist, which is flying, which plays a huge part. If we look at the flying units from some of the other factions, which we will later this week, they don't have the advantage of having good heroes to partner with them, right? Having Atheist as the best flying outside Thea, the best flying hero, makes them the best starting flying unit, and I highly recommend training them, right? Trying to get Celestials, which is very challenging, okay, because the first one you're going to get is tier 3, but once you get to them, I recommend leveling up your Atheists and using them in battle because it can be a very, very powerful addition and can make you keep up with other players that maybe are higher power, have more troops, have higher heroes, just because of the way they can move on the battlefield. Using them to go over water, up mountains, forcing your opponent to go around. And that can allow you to escape, survive longer. It'll allow you to pick them off from farther distances, especially if they're cavalry or swordsmen. And it gives you the upper hand when it comes to battle. So the Celestials, in my opinion, are definitely the best flying unit. And let's see what we have. So we already talked about the fact that they're flying magic. I mean, that's amazing. They can fly over certain terrain types and avoid being obstructed by other legions. That's awesome. And they deal more magic damage and provide stronger buffs. So that's the best part of them, right? Having the long range, being magic, and being able to move over the obstacles. Their special ability is Divine Will. It increases magic attack by 5% every 4 seconds, as long as they haven't moved. So if you can manage to stay still, which we've talked about this, that can be a challenge. But if you can stay still and do magic damage, you are going to have a huge advantage when it comes to the battlefield, okay? It's going to keep stacking. That magic attack is going to keep stacking, and you're going to keep pouring it on. And with the Celestials, this is a lot easier than the Marksmen, right? Because the Celestials can stand on mountains. They can stand over water. They can help themselves stand on the other side, do damage, and force the opponent to use other things. Now, if you're going against other mages, right, they're going to be able to shoot where you can shoot. But if you're going against other troops, you could potentially sit there and just do massive amounts of damage and no one be able to get to you, right? So these could be a very strong addition to a new player once you get to them. Now, when you first start out, it's going to take you time to unlock the Celestials. The best way is to use the Wonders, and then you will get some tier 3 from that. And if you can do that very early, that's going to help you tremendously as well. But Celestials, a great addition to the League of Order, and definitely something that you should put into your rotation with an Atheist hero. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.